AVL?
Got one.
We've got one, that's enough.
I welcome everyone to this meeting of the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority. And I note recording has commenced. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge acknowledgement of the country. Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands where we work and live. Council celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of the New South Wales Central Tablelands. Now, members and the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting, other than any confidential matters, will be recorded and made publicly available on the council website, and persons attending should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Item 1 is apologies. I note we have an apology from Councillor Ewan. Can I have a mover to accept that apology? Councillor Reynolds, second to Councillor Leslie. That all in favour?
Aye.
I note that we have 3 members. We currently have one online, Councillor Member Watt, and I note that Members Smith and Members Fry are online or will attend during the course of the meeting. Item 2 is disclosure of interests. Council members are reminded of their obligations under the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. If any member has any declaration of interest, could they now disclose so now, please? Any members with a conflict of interest? I note that there are no disclosures of interest made. Item 3 is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 10th of May. The recommendation is that Council adopt the minutes of the previous meeting of the Upper Macquarie County Council of the 10th of May 2024. Could I have a Member Leslie, Member O'Connor? Thank you. Any issues arising out of the minutes?
Got to vote on them first.
Yes, I know.
Changes.
All right. I put the motion that those minutes be adopted. All in favour? Aye.
Don't think there are any matters
Are
arising.
there any matters arising from the minutes? Item 4 is matters in progress. The recommendation is that Council notes the report. Can I have a mover, please? Member Reynolds and Member O'Connor, thank you. Any discussion on this? Maybe is there any update from the General Manager or the Chief Biosecurity Officer?
We do have an update, and I'll hand to Chris to talk about this item, please. Thanks, Chris.
Right. So this is the forestry.
The forestry, yeah, and the roads, the contribution to the roads. You put quite a bit in the report, but I thought there might have been an update.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
And the
So
mapping, etc.
yeah, we got the information as per the report. We got the information back, which was missing what we were after for a lot of it. So we've been sitting down, going through it, and doing the mapping ourselves to figure out where they are. We've pretty well completed that now. Now we just need time to go through it and see what that result means to us. But there's more forestry frontage out there than what we had anticipated. Sort of thing. So now we just need time to go through that.
That doesn't surprise me, because I think there was more than 20,000 worth.
Yeah.
So on the basis of that, if I could ask you, you'd think probably the 20,000 budget going forward is probably not enough. But they know that they're going to pull it from other areas if they have to go that way. But
We're not saying they will pull it from other areas. They're saying if they were to use it, if they were to put more into this, something else would have to get reduced to make it work.
so when we've done the mapping, I assume we will go back to forestry with our mapping and say, this is what you've indicated, this is what we believe it is. You need to price the bill.
Yeah. That's our program. We plan to go back to them and say, this is what we've got, and start having that conversation.
I know that Member Fry joined the meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Apologies for my tardiness.
All right, thanks very much for that, Chief Biosecurity Officer. Maybe you can update us at the next meeting and what happened.
And one of the things that we have identified is just how many private forests there are. And to identify the difference between a state forest to a private forest to a state forest. It looks like this map's going to be really stop and start in some sections and some. It's not a simple, here's a forest and it all belongs to the one owner.
Absolutely. So what are we intending, noting that a number of those private forests will have the same problem as forestry and that they'll have weeds from the edge of the pine trees to the fence?
It's
Issuing a direction on them, but those private landholders.
Yeah, private landholding with forestry.
Well, I know even on the Burriga Road there's a mismatch.
Chris and I will start the consideration of that because I know it made us both smile when we identified just how much of it is there.
Right.
It will need pretty careful instruction to any contractor that's spraying roadsides when you've got that much change along the road.
So,
And
how many different owners are there? Is there one big owner?
I'll throw back to Chris and
There's a couple of big owners, but there's also a lot of little guys.
So would be any good approaching the likes of the large one? Because I assume one is board and one somewhere else.
To hand up for member
Potentially, but I suppose we've also got to be careful to not treat them differently with private farm. Because then you're effectively saying to every farm owner, why aren't you doing?
All right.
That's true. So it's just, there's a lot of things to consider.
Okay. Well, we maybe we need a little bit of a report next as to what our considerations are.
There's a couple of steps. I think first of all, Chris needs to just finalise the discussion with the Forestry Corporation. And then we're going to have to come back with how we're going to manage this other situation.
Sorry, Member Fry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, it was sort of resolved in that discussion then, Chair, but I could imagine if it's, more than a reasonable amount of different private landholders in between and around state forests, the lines will get very, very grey and very blended. And I wonder if there's some kind of mechanism which, because of this kind of close proximity of private landholders that state forests already have in terms of a list of owners or a mechanism in which they contact private forestry holders in their doing of their business. And I wonder if in those discussions with State Forest, the GM and Chris might be able to probe some kind of communications method, because obviously we want to maximise our efficiencies and make sure we're just doing long strips of forest. Like the best thing for us is making sure that we're just doing one big piece and not stopping and starting, right? Getting too confused.
I think the problem that as the Chief Biosecurity Officer is that we also have to be careful not to treat private, let's say, softwood plantation owners differently from what we would treat a normal private landholder.
Well, everyone is the same in the eyes of the Upper Macquarie County Council.
Okay, well, anyway, I think next meeting you'll have a better idea, and you'll have been able to delineate what's forestry core and what differentiate from the map you've given them in relation to what's owned by forestry core, and then obviously we've got the private landholders. How we look at those. Yep. All right. Could I have someone? Sorry. Oh, Bruce. Sorry.
That's okay. I was going to ask, one thing on forestry, Member Reynolds, yes.
Sorry, Member Reynolds.
Member Gibbon. Chair, the one thing with regard to forestry, if we only have $20,000, how are we actually going to distribute it when, like, for example, in Sector 2, I'm aware in Blaney Shire, that's pretty well the only forestry that will have, I don't think has a fence delineating the forestry from the roadside. So, and maybe the general manager, and once they've had further discussions, take it on notice on how we potentially could as in distribute it so that there is some proportion put out to each of the 4 LGAs. So Lithgow, because they've got a fair bit of forestry, and Bathurst has a reasonable amount of forestry too. So just something to take into consideration. I don't want an answer today. The other question, and again, it's to do with roadside, and maybe there is another roadside.
Stop there for a minute. So I think on that question, I think that we'll have to go through a logical process. The first is to say, because forestry said that on the basis of their mapping, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they believe 20,000 is sufficient for next year. If we show that their mapping is deficient, then we have to agree that and they then have to work out if they're putting additional funding in to meet that. If they don't, then the next question is then how do we apportion what they have provided in funds for roadside spraying to that area that's provided? So I think, yes, I think there is a logical sequence of events that has to get to where you asked for. Sorry to interrupt you, but next.
So just,
Sorry, Chair, on the same issue that.
yeah,
I member Reynolds doesn't finish, but it's.
Yeah, no.
it was a mild correction. I don't think the forestry said would be sufficient. I think they merely said that that's all they're going to give.
God.
Huh?
Sorry. The 20K is what they said they've got to spend on roadside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they got to spend on roadside. I don't think they're saying that it was sufficient for the job.
I thought there was a note from you saying you thought it might be based on their mapping.
Going by what they provided us, we thought it was going to more than cover it, but now that we've delved into it ourselves, we're seeing a different picture there.
Can I quote what it says here?
Yeah.
Forestry has stated at this stage that the budget will remain the same for 24-25. Just
Yes, but Chris, the Chief Biosecurity Officer sent an email to us, to all of us, I think it was about a few weeks ago, saying, based on the mapping they have provided us, the 20,000 should cover it next year. But the situation's moved on from there in that we don't think their mapping is correct. So we have to, sorry, that email fits into the picture. We found a lot more since then. Yes, yeah, sorry. You are correct, but there was this email.
okay.
All right, sorry.
And I'll cover my other issue under item 8.1.
So all in favour of the recommendation? Right. Item 5. Chairman's minute indicates nil, but there is a chairman's minute. And the purpose of the minute is that the County Council needs to appoint a panel of members to review the General Manager's performance for the period 6th of June 2023 to 6th of June 2024. The notice of motion is Council's meeting on the 21st of June 2024, that is today, appoints members nominated at this meeting to the performance review panel to review the General Manager's performance for the period 6th of June 2023 to 6th of June 2024 and nominates a date of the selection of dates for members of the panel to subsequently confirm their availability for the performance review meeting with the General Manager. So I would seek an amendment to 1 for the appointment of members to that panel. Normally we've had 1 member from each council plus 1 member from each council who is not represented by the chairman or the deputy chairman. But we don't have to go that way this way. So we would be looking from someone from Lithgow and someone from Bathurst to be nominated.
Yeah, I'll nominate. Yep.
So you're nominating Member Fry, yourself?
Thanks, mate.
Lithgow?
Leslie, would you be?
I'll nominate myself.
All right. So 1 will be council's meeting on the 21st of June, appointed the chairman, the deputy chairman, Member Fry and Member Leslie to the performance review panel to review the General Manager's performance for the period 6th of June 2023 to 6th of June 2024. Do we have any dates, or could I suggest that maybe some
Circulate them, Mr. Chair.
members and we confirm back to the administration manager as to what date suit us? Is that appropriate?
Yep.
Yeah, see what's good for
Manager administration, would you be able to circulate some potential dates? That's okay.
And the general manager has to be available too.
Yes, well, I'll put it in.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's in the loop.
I'm listening.
Yeah, all right. Can I have a seconder, please, to that? Member Reynolds, to that, notice of motion, 2 parts. Any further discussion? All in favour? Thank you.
Second, sorry.
Member
Reynolds.
Reynolds. Item 6 is governance review and 6.1 is the legislative compliance. The recommendation is that council, 1, adopts the operational plan 2024-2025 and delivery program 2024-2025 to 2028/2029, bracket including budget, bracket as exhibited. 2, adopts the business activity strategic plan 2024/2025 to 2034/2035, bracket including budget, bracket as exhibited. 3, notes according to the New South Wales Local Government Remuneration Tribunal effective 1 July 2023. Annual report and determination. There is to be an increase in members' fees to 6,490 per member per year for 2024-2025 financial year. And 4, notes that according to the New South Wales Local Government Remuneration Tribunal effective 1 July 2023 annual report and determination, there is an increase to the chairperson's fees to 11,860 per year for the 2024-25 financial year. Can I have a mover of that recommendation in 4 parts, please?
Yep.
Member O'Connor, seconder, please. Member Reynolds, thank you. Discussion on this matter. I have a quick question. That is basically remuneration tribunals is a 3.75% increase.
So what was actually allocated, sorry if I might address this.
Sorry, thank you.
When the budget was put together, what was allocated in the budget for members' fees and chairperson's fee was the maximum amount to be given to a county council chair of what they call an other county council. So that's any county council that is not water. That's for the chair and chairperson. So that was the maximum under the 1st of July 2023 determination that was put out. Now, at the time of writing the budget, there wasn't a determination that had been released by the tribunal. And so that's why the 1st of July 2023 one was used, that determination was used because that was the latest one that we had. And that is the maximum fees that can be given to a chairperson or members of a county council.
So what increase is that over what we received last year?
Significant.
Because I'm happy to answer if you. So this current financial year, I think the councillors the members are remunerated 5,000 each. I think is the approximate figure, if my memory serves me right. And the chair was it 9,000 and something. But we have been gradually over a 4-year period increasing up to the limit. We were on the bottom, as in when you first started, and for the amount of workload, etc., that a number of the members do, and we've just agreed to one extra activity for 4 of the members, that it's probably well below the level of work that members do. So we have had a pathway or a plan to increase gradually over a number of years the remuneration, and to benefit it'll actually, as in 95% will be to the new members of this organisation and not to the current members, because again our term finishes on September the 14th with the new election. So as in it's to encourage again the new members and to remunerate the chair for all of their work. So I'm talking in favour of the 4 points, Chair.
So if it was roughly 5,000 before, if we were to increase it by, I think the tribunal indicated, because we've just done it for over on council, a 3.75% increase, that would be increasing it to 5,187.50 a week. Is that right?
If you were to use the percentage increase, we're just taking the maximum.
Which was our goal about 3 years ago, was to gradually increase over a 3-year period in remuneration
So it's quite a hefty increase. I'm just wondering how it's going to be perceived, because it's about a bit over, what, $1,500, isn't it?
Just under $1,500, $1,490 to be precise.
And during workshop, both workshopping and the draft being put before the May ordinary council meeting was not an issue.
Talk about the rest of the budget, or do you want to stick on this?
No, I just want to stick to this a minute. Quite a hefty increase. It's about 25%.
I haven't worked out the percentage and I
It
don't.
won't be 25%, but it'll be something quite large. 20%.
It's currently built into what was exhibited in the budgets of the op plans and the business activity strategic
I know
plan.
it was there. Yeah. Anyone else got any views?
Well, Lithgow Council's rates went up 47% recently.
That's the rate. So, yeah.
That's right. So I mean, but it's an indication of where we are in the cost cycle.
Well, with inflation going up and everything else, I think it's not too bad.
Any other views? Member Pryor, Member Watt?
Look, Mr. Chair, given our current financial situation, in terms of the sustainability of most organisations, I'd err on the side of caution and not increase fees, but our own council met as recently as Wednesday and increased fees too, because not everybody's in the same position as myself to be able to reject increases in pay on statutory boards that they are a part of. So I totally see the expenses and the time and the resources that are put in by other members. So usually I let these upper limit maximum sets slide, because I might be the outlier in not necessarily requiring additional fees for our time. But so therefore I won't suggest a change to it, but I just thought I'd state my position.
Member Watt?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in favour of a modest increase.
But it is a quite a big increase. It's more than 20%. And I know we sought to increase our fees over time, but my concern is it will be perceived as a big increase. If you're going from a bit over $5,000 to $6,490, and for a chairman, I think we've jumped about 9,000 something to 11,000.
Yeah, that does seem a lot, doesn't it? I'm reluctant to comment. I won't be a member next year. Not seeking re-election, so we're really. I'd prefer the opinion of people that are going to be more affected by it than me.
Remember what? None of us know whether we'll be here this time next year.
No, well, in which case I'd stick with my comment that I would prefer a modest increase.
Like Member Reynolds has stated, it affects the next people more than us. And if some of us are not in the position to be appointed to this particular county council, you would hope the remuneration is enough of an attractant to make sure that this board and this organisation continues as a going concern with the respect and seriousness it deserves. It's still a modest fee in general, I think, as it's set now and as it's set to increase. But for somebody who's willing to put in the time and effort, I think a modest increase, like Member Watts just said, is probably worth making sure that we have apt representation on this particular council.
If I could make a further comment.
Certainly.
I'm the longest serving member of the council here, and when I started in 2016, we met 4 times a year. We're meeting at least 8 or 9 times plus workshops. We didn't do any of that. So yeah, we've taken a view that our role as members of this council is sufficiently important, you know, for us to spend extra time on it, and so it's yes, you're right, it's more than a modest increase, but our workload has gone up more than a modest increase as well.
So we're spending about 60 to 61,000 a year in chairman's fees and council and member fees. Sorry,
Then further to that, there'll be travel
expenses.
superannuation allowances, exit distance allowances.
So if we look at an organisation like Central Tablelands Water,
Different.
Sorry,
the remuneration tribunal classifies water county councils as different to all other county councils. And
right. They have less members than us, though.
That is correct. The 6 members, if you're talking about Central Tablelands,
Yeah.
their remuneration is, I think it's around about recommended to go to 12,000.
Yes.
So double. And while there is a member that's not here today that could tell us, from what I can gather and talking to their chair recently, the workload is probably fairly similar. So their remuneration is double. Actually, their workload is probably less, Chair. And I'm not being critical of their workload, but in looking at what outside of the chair of that county council, and again, that chair has got a big workload. But looking at the rest of the councillors' responsibilities and roles, because they've got far more staff, they've got 20-something staff, their actual individual workload is far less.
Statutory requirements of a water county council are very different, though, to those that are other. So I don't think we can compare between a Weed County Council and a Water County Council, but they are both county councils, I suppose.
I mean, I have some reservations.
Approximately 30% I've calculated increase just on members' fees.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please, Lisa?
Sorry, it's
30% is what I got, but then I cut it back. Yeah,
it's about 30% on members' fees for an increase.
So could I suggest, Chair, that given that there may be some dissent on this particular part, and I'm happy to move that we actually, when it comes to the vote, we vote on this in seriatim, so that we go 1, 2, 3, and 4.
that's
So that, well, you need to move that. You just can't say it.
No, I'm getting there, but I'm just saying. So you're moving. So
I'm happy to move, but then I do want to talk about the budget before we go to voting. But
okay, so you moved.
yes, procedural motion.
You moved this though. You
Yes.
have to get someone else to.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
And the seconder? Yeah, well, you can't second it. But I'm quite happy to move an amendment that we deal with each of these individually, 1 to 4. Seconder?
Oh, I see. That's just the amendment to deal.
So if I could speak to it, in the current economic climate, I just have some difficulties of both the chairman's fee in particular and the members' fees going up 30%. Whilst I acknowledge we're below what would normally go, but the workload and everything else, I just think it's not a good look when we're asking councils for updated increased amounts, and in some of them, like Lithgow and Arthurton, over on considerable amounts for increased weed spraying, that the members' fees and the chairman's fees increase to this degree.
Chair, I think you'd get support if you would just amend 3 and 4 to remain at the current remuneration.
Well, I think the remuneration tribunal, certainly for councils, came out with an amount of 3.75%. What I would be suggesting is maybe that we should limit it if they're going up 30%, to acknowledge the increased workload, but also to acknowledge the cost of living. I'd be proposing for 3 and 4 that we get an 15% increase 30. Support for that.
Well, that's a procedural motion. I guess.
I'm happy to, that's what the procedural.
Procedure.
Yeah.
So are now you moving an amendment or are you just going to put it to a, when we go to a vote?
I will now go through these 1 to 4. When we get to 3 and 4, I will push an amendment.
Okay.
So I will put, so can we move 1, that we adopt the operational plan?
Yep.
And
I'll second that.
delivery programs.
Yep.
Thank you, Member O'Connor and Member Leslie. Any discussion on that?
So I was going to discuss about where we're heading.
The budget, yes, right.
With the budget, so which I think is a far greater importance than the small increase in remuneration overall in the scheme of the budget. But as has been exhibited, the first year, which is next financial year, we are projecting a small surplus, and then moving on from that, going to substantial deficit. Now, the budget and the delivery program are forecasting a return to full staffing at this stage. So we're not looking at anything else. This is just as in the business operation that we currently have. And that's very important to note. If we return to full staffing, as in year 2, we will go into a fairly substantial deficit in that particular year. And if we return to full staffing next financial year, the budget situation would change because of a workers' compensation claim that's currently there. So this is to be kept in mind when it comes to the operational plan, so the next 12 months, that if we are able to come up with an outcome with regard to the workers' compensation claim, and then we go back to staffing, whichever way that outcome goes, that the budget will actually go into the red if we went back to full staffing. So this council really has to make a decision with the budget, and this is where it gets difficult, that that we're pretty well, if we endorse the operational plan, we are endorsing 1 less staff position for the next 12 months. Otherwise, we'd have to do a QBRS adjustment if we were to appoint a staff member back on. So I just wanted to highlight that this budget is actually forecasting that we have 1 less position or 1 less position funded. If we were to fund go back to full staffing, the budget would, the operational plan, so the next 12 months budget would go into deficit by probably about $30,000 or $40,000.
And as I understand it, the next meeting in August, the General Manager is to provide us with a new structure, and that may also have implications for the future.
Well, could, but we're passing a budget today, so we can't look at August. We have to look at what's in front of us at the moment. But I just wanted to highlight that to members, that this is the situation with recommendation 1, that as in it is a recommendation with 1 less staff member because workers' compensation covers that staff member's wage at this point in time. So as in, and we don't have a replacement for that position. So therefore we have to keep that in mind with passing this budget as opposed to anything that might be passed down the track.
Thank you. So to the General Manager, noting that, and that's what obviously the operational plan includes, and noting, I think we raised it in the last meeting, but let's raise it again. There is and I can raise this in general terms, that there is a backlog of inspections, of re-inspections. We are one staff member below actual requirements. To what extent is that going to affect this backlog of inspections?
Mr. Chairman, I've been speaking and working with Chris on how we're achieving those over the last over 12 months because we've had a vacancy. And when Chris provides his report to today's meeting, you'll see that the team have been very productive, and I don't believe it's going to be too far into year 2 where we'll be having a discussion about that vacancy. So Councillor Reynolds has actually confused me a little bit with his concern that this budget has that vacancy in it going forward, but at the same time I've been requested to present a business case around possible changes to that staff structure in August. I was taking that on board, that vacancy, in consideration of that staff structure in August. So we are down. Our productivity will be down, obviously, because we won't be able to work up to another full-time equivalent position.
But I think what Councillor Reynolds is, as of today, improving the budget. We are approving going forward with one staff member down.
Correct.
What happens after August is that we may have a revised budget that we come to at that time. But as of today, without having been in August and having considered the new structure, etc., that is what we're determining to go forward with. Yeah. It may change in August.
Well, the team have worked very effectively in the past over 12 months with the one vacancy. It hasn't had a major impact on any of the targets that we've achieved with our WAP funding arrangements particularly, and I don't see any changes looking forward to that result.
Thank you. All right. Any further comments, Member Reynolds or anyone else on number 1? All right.
I just wanted to add one extra thing, and I think I highlighted, if I may, Chair, when we actually put the budget out for public exhibition, the profit is because of the sale of, I think it's 3 motor vehicles. That actually puts us into the black. If we weren't selling the 3 motor vehicles, it'd be a small, I think it's a small deficit, like about $5,000 or $10,000, something in that vicinity, depending what we get for the motor vehicles. Will depend on and that will go to tender, I believe, shortly. So just keep that in mind too, that as in and next for the financial year after that, there are no motor vehicles to sell, and the 3 motor vehicles that we are proposing to sell are all written down to 0 value. So there'll be profit in the profit and loss account, but we will also have a very large capital outlay from a cash flow point of view when those 3 vehicles are purchased. Thank you, Chair.
So if I can ask when the new vehicles are purchased, obviously there's a depreciation amount applying for those vehicles. And obviously the closer the purchase to the 30th of June 2024 or 1st of July 2025, that will also impact on our accounts with a depreciation amount every year.
That's been taken into account.
Yes. So what value is that depreciation roughly a year? 20% of the value of the new vehicles?
Set over 6 years.
So it's 18%, is it?
17.5, I think.
18%. Okay, so I knew it was something around that.
But you did bring up a very good point at the last ARIC meeting, as in this was actually discussed, and it was discussed, one of the ARIC members asked if they could actually have a cash flow budget without depreciation in it to look at our cash position and projections moving forward. So separate to the profit and loss. So technically, if you pull out the depreciation, which is about 70,000 on average, but it will go up a little bit. It's in the 60s, I think, this financial year. With the purchase of the 3 new vehicles, cash flow wise, outside of the purchase, and again, that's part of the problem. We've got to outlay a lot of cash to purchase these 3 vehicles, which we do have in the organisation. We'll be about break even if you took out depreciation in year 2, or very close to it.
Well, I don't know what the value of the 3 vehicles is, but let's say roughly 60,000, you're looking at 30, probably around 30,000 odd in depreciation to add to our existing 90,000.
At 60 something at the moment, but
Yeah.
there's some other items that are coming off depreciation, as in with the schedule, some spray equipment, etc.
Let's say it's 80,000. Could still be positive, just.
Possibly, depending on, there are several other items outside of the motor vehicles that are proposed.
Yes. What's that, 30,000?
Yes.
Isn't that the pattern that the depreciation has been such that over time, the vehicles actually gain money and if and when they needed to be sold down the line, we actually make a profit and therefore it helps the whole process. That's what's happened in the past.
It's the cash flow that really worries.
You're looking at a $50,000 vehicle that we might get 15,000 back from, type thing, or 50 to 60,000.
All right, but I think if Eric's asked, I would be interested in seeing that cash flow as well, as I think other members would be. So when it's provided to Eric, it would be provided to members too. That'd be good, because I'd be interested to see how that goes forward, especially for the next three years. Thank you. So I put recommendation 1. All in favour? Yeah. Right, we move to recommendation 2. Council adopts the Business Activity Strategic Plan 2024-2025-2034, including budget as exhibited. Mover, please. Member O'Connor, Member Reynolds. I think we probably answered the questions in the previous one on this one. I don't think there'll be further discussion. I put the motion. All in favour? Number 3. Recommendation is the council notes that according to the New South Wales Local Government Remuneration Tribunal, effective 1 July 2023 annual report and determination.
I'll move it as printed.
To increase member fees 6,490 per member per year for the 2024-25 financial year. And mover from Member Leslie, seconded Member Reynolds. Discussion on this matter?
No. We discussed it sufficiently earlier.
Okay. I'd propose an amendment, but it'll probably fail if the increase be confined to 15% per member per year for 2024-25. Do I have a seconder?
Yes. 2 on the screen.
2 on the screen. Member White, thank you.
3.
Yes.
Further discussion? Put the amendment. All in favour? 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3.
Ask against for a
Against. Sorry? Yeah, 3 against and 3 for, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So the chair gets a deciding vote.
This is for the amendment, but yes.
It would be unlikely
Remember the
to
status
vote against you.
Mayor, and I'm not trying to influence your, but the status quo is the proposed draft budget.
Yes.
So keep that in mind when you are looking at your decision, Chair.
No decision. It's just get a casting vote then.
Sorry.
Get a casting vote.
Yeah, he has a casting vote, but
Look, I will cast against the amendment.
The amendment is lost.
The amendment is lost. I put the original 3 as it stands. All in favour? Right. Number 4. 4-2.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll move to 4 as printed.
Sorry, 4 I'll read. Notice that according to the New South Wales Local Government Remuneration Tribunal, effective 1 July 2023 annual report and determinations, increase the chairperson's fees to 11,860 per year for the 24-25 financial year.
Leslie.
Moved Leslie, seconded. O'Connor. Discussion. I'll put an amendment that the chairman's fee be increased only by 15% for the year 2024-25. And seconder, Member Fry.
Faith on your amendment.
Discussion on the amendment?
Well, I'm happy to discuss. I think the chairman and the chairperson, sorry, I shouldn't be sexist, has a large workload and should be remunerated sufficiently. And given that this remuneration is about half of the Water County Council and probably again has a similar amount of workload to the chair of a Water County Council, and getting half, and this proposed remuneration is about half of what the Water County Council chair would get. So I'm in support of sufficiently covering, and I know that you as the chair have moved a different resolution, but to support that the remuneration should be warranted for the position and the title. So fully supportive of the $11,860 per year, Chair.
Because I am in this position, I'm not prepared to issue this. I know 5 members
Can I speak, Mr. Chair?
for the amendment, if it's true. Yes, Member Fry.
Yeah, no, I think out of all the positions of all the membership of this council, the chair should be rightly remunerated.
Can you take your finger away from the mouth? Can't hear, please.
Sorry, the connection on your end's quite bad, so I'll just wait for it to resolve.
Keep your face towards the microphone too. Sorry. We didn't catch that.
Yeah, sorry, the internet is not good, but I think out of all the positions, the chair should be well remunerated, and I agree with the increase in this particular case.
All right, put the amendment. All in favour? Against? Is that against or for?
It's against.
Against the amendment,
Right.
which you propose.
All right, I put the
Lost.
the amendment was lost, so I put the recommendation as written, which has already had a mover and a seconder. All in favour?
Which is 15%.
No,
It's the full amount.
11,860.
So 15% lost.
All in favour? And I'm against.
And you haven't noted that you're against in the minutes?
So noble of you, Mr. Chair.
You can go and donate the proceeds to a charity, Chair.
I'm more worried about the financial viability of the organisation, Mr Reynolds, noting our financials going forward.
Buy us a drum of.
All right, we move to item 7. Oh, no, we don't. We move to
6.12.
6.1.2. Thank you, Member Losman, for keeping me on the straight and narrow. The recommendation is that Council conducts a report. Can I have a mover, please? Member Reynolds, Member O'Connor, thank you. Discussion in relation to this matter, please.
So I've put this forward as the delegate, as in, so we're doing something different to the previous ARIC where you just had note what was noted, etc. So I've tried to actually give members some background to each of the discussion points, and whether I'm on this county council in the next term and also the member of the ARIC. And we actually do have to decide that just as a side issue, and to give you an update. Because it's probably an appropriate point in time. There will be interviews next week for the position of the 3rd independent ARIC member. The county council will then, so there will be a recommendation from that panel. There is this ARIC is across 3 councils, so Central Tablelands Water, Blaney Shire Council and the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority. And so that recommendation will come back. There is also, just as a side recommendation, Blaney Shire Council on Tuesday night upcoming, so next week, is putting a recommendation that the 2 existing members' terms are extended to the 4 years, which is in the terms of reference, I think it's termed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Terms of reference, that members can have a 4-year term. So it doesn't have to be in line with a local government term. It's 4 years. So there will be a special county council meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks. We'll try and set a date at the end of this meeting where we'll discuss the terms of reference, we'll discuss the appointment, and also we have to appoint a chair, as in the terms of reference again state that as of the 1st of July, the county council has to actually appoint. So the county council or the council appoints the chair. It's no longer an internal appointment amongst the ARIC members. And also the terms of the 2 existing ARIC members and to be extended, and that's subject to council approval, but that's likely to be the recommendations to come there. There will be, as in the terms of reference, there will be still a councillor, a non-voting councillor that can attend and participate. They just can't vote on any. And in this last meeting, I again asked the current chair what her thoughts were about it, and I've also read the terms of reference, and that was pretty well along the same lines, that the councillor on the ARIC would be pretty well a conduit between council and the ARIC and coming backwards and forwards on issues and bringing feedback back through. So we're possibly to some extent circumvented or as in preempted the new ARIC by this report here, that how I see that probably the feedback coming back will be in a report from that delegate to the county council after the ARIC meeting on what discussions took place that are publicly available. Some councils do have ARIC in confidential, but I do not see that there's anything here, and anything that I have written has been very carefully written so that there is nothing that could be construed as breaching confidentiality.
Chair, sorry. Member Fry's just notified that his battery died, so he's dropped out.
So there's 5 items that I've listed there. There's nothing earth-shattering in the items, but we discussed the budget, we discussed the transition plan for ARIC, which is just what I've just talked about. So work health and safety, as in, was an item that was put on the agenda, and there's a report here on what the council, so the general manager and the business manager highlighted with regard to work health and safety. The continuity plan was highlighted, and the audit engagement plan was also highlighted. So there are 5 items that were highlighted.
Can you on item 5, the business continuity plan, I understand Marsh Consultants, Marsh for insurance brokers, is that the same thing?
That's them.
And obviously program board initiatives. What's this? Well,
Mr. Chairman,
It's
statewide mutual insurance.
yes, gather that.
It's their board that have proposed this program of work.
So is it
to incentivise the councils that haven't got an effective or haven't got a BCP, that they are funding assistance with consultancy from Marsh in the development of BCP.
Oh, right. Okay, this is what you. Okay, fine. And can I ask Member Reynolds, the couple of issues arise. The ARIC selection committee or the selection committee for the new ARIC board member, that includes a representative from Blaney, Central Tablelands Water and us.
correct.
So the 3.
Plus the chair of ARIC is also sitting on that and chairing facilitating and chairing that panel.
Okay, fine. I assume that each of the Central Tablelands Water and Blaney are also putting observers onto the ARIC.
Correct. As in, it won't be an observer. You're actually a member. You're a non-voting member is how the terms of reference title that position. I noticed. And
you can have observers in addition.
So you can also have, so under the terms of reference, the chair is encouraged of the county council or council. So the mayor or chair is encouraged to come to the ARIC meeting, but they can be asked questions that they can't participate in so as an ARIC member, I could ask you as the chair a question, but you can't participate in the debate or discussion, whereas that council member can. And so that's the difference. You're more there to observe, but also if there is a question from any of the ARIC members to the chair, you are able to, I think it's only the chair, if my memory serves me right in the terms of reference that.
There's a non-voting attendee position and there's an observer position, which can be the chair or other council member.
Suggest is that we need to have endorsed the new terms of reference, and they are to be created and finalised very soon. And we will also need to appoint that new third member. And so without those new terms of reference to actually refer to, at the moment, it might be just a bit tricky to answer all of these questions.
Well,
so I think what we could do, yeah, that's right. They're going to be fairly generic from the OLG, but perhaps we could look to have a meeting prior to our next ordinary council meeting to put up those terms of reference and endorse that third independent member.
And we do have to, for the simple reason that there is an ARIC meeting scheduled before our next council meeting. I was going to suggest, I was going to leave it to the end of the business paper, that we look at a special meeting potentially on the 5th of July, which would give us enough time to make the appointment.
5th of July, next month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So 4 days after it technically starts, but because there is no ARIC meeting until August, very early August, is the 8th. So I'll have a late report from that one. So I was just going to, and I was also going to suggest before everyone cringes in their seats, that we look at potentially having that special one on video so that we don't have to travel, and it should be a fairly short meeting. And also with the terms of reference, yes, we haven't, as in Tim, Lisa and myself have been talking, having a look at the terms of reference and discussing their fit. And I would hope that we would have something with early next week, sort of as in a draft ready to go, so that we can, given we're not going to have it this afternoon, sometime early to mid next week.
So I just want to say that I know in Oberon, because I'm actually on the ARIC for Oberon, we grappled with this attendee/observer position, and we actually set some parameters for it, I think, in our terms of it.
Potentially, I could send those terms of reference out as a draft.
I would,
and then we can look at them, play with them, and then put them up at a spec. Once we're sort of happy with how they look.
But it's important to remember, as an observer, you cannot participate unless asked. That's the important thing. So whether someone would want to sit there through the time of our ARIC, which aren't that inspiring.
Councillor Reynolds, you are on.
Thank you.
No, I said they follow the correct process. I'm just saying that's.
It's a dry subject.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just that on the Friday, the 5th of July, I do have to leave around lunchtime.
But it doesn't, we could have a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, Chair. I'm just pulling out a date which would give us enough time to make a decision, offer this to a person, them accept, then write up a business paper, call the 3 days or whatever the special meeting is.
When are you interviewing, Bruce?
Next Tuesday and Wednesday. The interviews are taking place. So, and again, it'll have to, the challenge is too, as in, it's not a high paid position, and there are some very good candidates. And there was no mention, as far as I recall in the advertisement, of remuneration. When it comes, and this is the real risk.
So you appoint them in offer.
All right. Anyway, okay. I think let's wait till the results of your meetings.
Yes.
We note that there could be a meeting around on or about the 5th of July necessary.
Extraordinary.
Yes. We will note that. I ask members to look at their diaries to just see what their availability is around that. It can be a Teams meeting for that, but just check your availabilities. Is there any further discussion on this matter? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? We note that Councillor Fry has had to depart the meeting. 6.2 policies. And the first one is 6.2.1 complaints policy. Recommendation is the council adopts the complaints policy that has been developed referencing the New South Wales Ombudsman effective complaint handling guidelines, the model policies and the complaint handling. Have a mover, please. Member O'Connor, seconder. Reynolds, thank you. Discussion on this complaints policy which was circulated with the business papers. I put the motion, all in favour. 6.2.2 is the unreasonable complainant conduct policy. The recommendation is the council adopts the unreasonable complainant conduct policy attached that has been developed referencing the New South Wales Ombudsman guidelines and model policies, managing unreasonable conduct by complainants. Mover, please. Member O'Connor, seconder, please. Member Leslie, thank you. Discussion on this policy. I put the motion, all in favour. 6.3 finance. 6.3.1 is the investment report for May 2024. The recommendation is that council notes the report. Mover, please. Member Reynolds and Member O'Connor, thank you. Discussion on this. Yes, Member Reynolds.
A question through to the business manager. Have we got the, because this is only to the 31st of May, have we now got the WAP funding, and has our bank account increased quite substantially?
I understand that came in earlier from a discussion, from an email we received.
At least the question was directed to you.
Yes, and I'm
Yes.
expecting
Thank you.
Leslie to answer. Yep. It's increased significantly. However, on the flip side, from a cash flow point of view, it's significant amounts have also gone out.
The aerial program.
Correct.
Yeah.
Contractors.
Yeah.
A further question, if I may, again through to the business manager, through you, Chair. With regard to the aerial program, have we received most of the remuneration from the landholders?
There is a report on the aerial program coming up.
Neil
report.
Yes, no, well, that's why I'm asking
going to
now
ask, yeah.
in this report.
Answer, yes. Majority have. You to chase.
And do we have any idea of what our return was on that program?
Yes, I had it at the last meeting. I don't have it at this one.
I thought you reported it
Very small.
very small, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, that remains the same. Okay. I thought there might have been a few variations after receipt of accounts, receipt of amounts, etc., but no, right? Any further discussion?
So one further question.
Yes.
Given what the business manager has just said, and a question again through you, Chair, to the business manager, are we likely to increase back to $1,250,000 the sort of interest payment, as in that account, so that we can get that? Or when you're looking at cash flow and particularly the purchase of new motor vehicles, are you erring on the side of caution until we get the council sort of remuneration back, so contributions in July?
It's the latter, yes. It's, I am erring on the side of caution rather than locking it up. I've kept it there for now, although the general manager and I have a meeting soon regarding those investments and when the tendering for vehicles will occur.
So have Member Reynolds and the General Manager had meetings or discussions with the
We
bank?
did not have an opportunity since the last meeting.
Okay, can we start setting a date? Can we set a date for that, please? Some stage?
We'll work out at the end of the meeting.
Please. It's been going on for some time. Okay. Any further discussion on this investment report? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Thank you. Landholder Support Program 7.1, which is the aerial spraying program 2025. There's no report on this subject, and we had a brief discussion about it on the previous matter. Item 8 is the roadside spraying program 2023-24. The recommendation is the council notes report. A mover. O'Connor, seconder. Member Reynolds. Discussion on this matter, please. Could I raise the question about, you received the email from Mayor General Manager, can you arrange a meeting or have those issues that the GM of Oberon has raised fixed up as soon as possible? So, yeah, we have to, Oberon has to decide on where, how we go ahead and what funding sources we need. I don't want this being held up any further, any longer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you'll note that I have also reported on the roadside program at item 8.2. In that we will be consulting with the constituent councils on some proposed amendments to the agreement going forward. So it's at those meetings that I will be able to resolve those issues that you've raised. And, thank you for bringing them to my attention this morning.
Oh, the issues here. Oh, I will be into that, right, okay. All right, I can, Emma Reynolds.
So with regard to number 1, and I read that it was already, so the use of the word annually, I have an issue with. It says treat all roads within a sector annually.
You're dealing with 8.2, aren't you?
Oh, sorry, I've gone to the one.
Still at 8.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's still 8.1, we haven't passed this one.
The one question I have on this one though, so sorry, it does, is, and I'll use the example of Lithgow at $733 on what, from what I understand, what's potentially being proposed with the next motion. So that's why I've got the two confused. Is a large amount of money. Now it might have been some really bad roads. So I'm not quite sure whether I should be talking about this in the next. Maybe I'll
I was going to talk about this in the next one.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll refer to that.
All right. So can I put this one all in favour? 8.2, which is a review of the roadside weeds control services agreement. Recommendation is the county council consult with constituent councils proposing the amendments to the agreement. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mover? Member O'Connor, seconder? Member Reynolds. Discussion on this matter, and I believe there will be some. I just a point of note that I've given some comments which I copied of councillors to the general manager for consideration in relation to this, and in relation to the some of the proposed changes. I suppose if you're in a position to answer any of those, really, I was a bit confused. In particular, I thought we're only splitting the annual cost for the trackers to the councils, not the capital cost. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's right. That's one of my
The
questions.
cost of the software arrangements that we have to buy, and they're around $1,806 per unit per year.
So how are we going to divide that between the councils, noting that we may have different numbers of use? Are we just going to split it? How many units are going to be out there? So say there are 6 units out there. And we'll have some on our vehicles,
Yes.
some on contractor vehicles,
Yes.
which we are, and so let's say we have, if I could, Chief Vice Secretary, how many units we like to have there in a roadside space with ours and contractors? 6?
That's probably somewhere around 16.
I think we're budgeted.
We budgeted for up to 20.
Up to 20 units. So if we have 40,000, how are we splitting that between the councils? That's my question. Is it 10,000 per council?
I think we need to discuss the reason for this recommendation about the use of this technology, so we understand where the benefit is going.
I thought we resolved that.
Well, I hope we have, that there's equal benefit
Yes.
of these tools, because the individual councils will be able to monitor themselves if they wish to, of what's actually occurring on their roads, and we will be looking at exactly the same information and data. So that, I think, is the reason that I've looked at a 50% contribution by the constituent councils for each of the units that would be assigned to the weed control in that year.
And we're doing,
LGA.
and we're doing the capital cost of these units.
The capital cost would be borne by the county council.
So we're loaning it.
Yep.
So then that's fine, but I'm just questioning, are we splitting the 40,000 10,000 each council, how are we splitting the 40,000? If it's 40,000. That's what I was confused when I read this. I thought, okay, but some council areas are bigger than others. Some are using more, might have more contractors than others. How are we going to split this cost?
The capital cost, my understanding of wasn't splitting it.
No.
It was borne by the county council.
I'm not talking about the capital. I'm talking about the 1,800.
1,800.
1,800 per unit, noting that there are 16 to 20 units.
Yep.
And let's say it's 40,000. I'm taking the figure.
Yep.
2,000 over 20. 20 years. Just for simple terms. I know it may not be that, but just say how would we split that figure over the 4 councils?
Well, we'll know who has undertaken the work within each LGA.
Okay, but you're going to the councils and you say, we're introducing this thing. You can't say, when you negotiate, you're saying, now, we want you to bear the cost of 50% of this software for this unit. We're paying the capital costs. The first question the general manager of council is, so all I have to do is pay 1,800 a year. You're going to say, no, there'll be 16 to 20 units out there operating. And so that'll be a total cost of probably somewhere between 36 and 40,000. How much of that 40,000 or 36 am I paying? That'll be a question from the general manager.
Chris, I think we'll calculate it on the road distance.
Well, sorry, the other thing too is.
I think that's going to be a nightmare.
Nightmare, don't go down that rabbit hole. The 4 councils are getting equal benefit out of the system.
That's what I'm saying. We're splitting it 10,000 a
So
council.
if you went down that logic, that it doesn't matter how many units are bouncing between different areas at different times, each council area is still getting the same benefit to splitting the quarters.
Trying to say, yep.
That's what I'm understanding, and that's why I asked the question, because before you go and negotiate, you need to know what the cost's going to be for each respective council for this, because you can't say 1,800 a unit. They're going to say, well, how many units? Or, yes, you've got to say it's going to cost you X thousand a year, or between X and Y a year. They have to put that in their budget for the next year. They need a total cost. And we can't under budget it, please.
Could I ask the general manager a question?
Yes, certainly.
General manager, you feel comfortable about arguing a 25% charge per council?
We've already met with each of the councils and discussed each of their programs for this year. And the next steps were for me to report here on the types of matters that were raised. These are those types of matters that were raised. And for us now to go and see if there is agreement around changing our service level agreement, which has to be done in consultation with the 4 and with everyone agreeing. So what I'm presenting to you here is these are concepts and suggestions about improving the program, and they may be changed in those discussions. But the discussions that have already been had, they were all very keen on the new technology to be able to do the tracking and the data that was becoming available. I appreciate the Chairman's comment that we'll need to have a very clear idea of those costs, not just guesstimates.
When you're dealing with the general managers, you'll be dealing with them individually. You won't have a meeting of 5 people. So it makes it trickier, doesn't it?
The programs are somewhat different. There's one service level agreement that discusses 4 programs of work that's undertaken, one for each of the constituent councils. And I think the discussion pulling them all together would be good, but I was looking at an easier way to be able to have these discussions. They may wish to Because I don't know whether I'll get to see their general managers on some occasions. And that was exactly the case when we were in Mountain Salt. The invitation was sent to the general managers, and Chris and I turned up and spoke with the people that were presented to us. If you're suggesting that this recommendation around consulting with them does ask that we pull them together as a team for this consultation, I can try and do that.
I wasn't suggesting that. I think
Sorry.
I think it would be very difficult to actually get it.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought that's what you were indicating.
So I was just having, with the amendments to 5C and D, I was just having a little difficulty in understanding the process. So I'll go through how I understand we're saying this works. So for next, and let's use this year and next year as an example. So let's say you're approaching, and I'll do it, I'll take Lithgow. You're approaching the new general manager of Lithgow. And you say, right, and I think we need some terminology between estimated service fee and service fee. So you're approaching the general manager of Lithgow and you're saying, right, so last year it cost $733.84 per kilometre in Lithgow council area to spray the weeds. So we have these number of kilometres in section 2, and for 24-25, section 2 is what to be done. So if we multiply that number of kilometres by last year's calculation of $733 and whatever it was, we get to a figure of whatever it is. Yeah, that's what our estimated fee is. And you'll have that discussion when?
When is that discussion had?
Yeah.
Well, moving forward, Mr. Chair, that's now available. That information is available as soon as the program ends.
So have you given Lithgow, for instance, at this stage, to say for section 2 next year, we estimate that the amount you need to pay up in Macquarie to do the roadsides is X dollars?
Yes, that was a discussion had with Lithgow Council.
So
I've met with them.
So when was that? Has Lithgow put that in its operational plan for next year?
The discussion that I had with the acting general manager did not indicate that to us, but he was meeting with us to hear us report to him about the program. And when we reported to him that this is what we may be requesting going forward, he was in agreement with that.
So can I suggest that in future years, that is for going, if you're looking at 25, 26, that we normally finish the roadside program when, Chris? Right. By at least the end of April, we meet with all general managers because they have to put their budget through for the next year and say, your costs of doing this year were X, and for your next section, and that'll be section 3 for those who've done it. It could be section 2.5 if some councils are spreading it over 3 years or whatever 2B. And this is it, because if you don't have it by then, it won't get into next year's budget.
Yeah.
And that's very important because councils like this year are all up in arms because basically they've set their budget and then they suddenly find out that huge increase. So I think we need to put a date in there so that we will get back to them by the 30th of April or work with them as to a date.
Yeah.
Because this can't, it's just not feasible. Now, you're also going to them and maybe have Oberon and maybe Bathurst, I think, are the two that didn't go ahead and say, look, we know you only got this part of section 1, we'll call this section 1B. Maybe that's done next year. We extend you to a 4-year program. Is that what you're going to do?
Correct.
Okay. The other thing I think is, and as I discussed in my email, I think in year 4, or the year after the 3 or 4 year program has transpired, that I think we should have some reduction in costs because of it's a control matter, they're not a initial spray and contain. I think so that in that final section, when you do it for the 4th year, or if it's a 4-year program, the 5th year, you need to somehow work in that maybe the previous dollar rate for that section may not be completely valid. I don't know how you do that. Or maybe just say it will be this, but we expect that there may be a rebate or something.
Mr. Chairman, can I just go back to just a couple of steps in your questions?
Yes.
The estimated service fee is what I'm suggesting is a change to the agreement. And the reason that I want the word estimated in there is that we will be giving them an indication of what we believe it will cost in the next year. So we can provide estimated.
So in 5C.
Yep.
So in 5A, you've got, in 5A, you've got in schedule the provision of service in accordance with the agreement, each council will pay the UMCC the agreed annual service fee before work commences annually. So you're expecting that, they'll ask for when you expect us to pay that, and you will have to say by October. Because if you start your program in November, which is possible, isn't it?
Even if you said December, you go more November.
So I think you actually need to put a month there, and a date,
Okay.
because they won't know. And is it the annual service fee they're paying or the estimated annual service fee?
The estimated service fee will be the only mention, and the service fee we will be requesting after that. We advise them this is the estimated service fee, and the council will then place a purchase order with the county council for the roadside for that period.
And that'll include the estimated service fee.
That will be the discussion that the council has. You have to set what you'll be contributing to the roadside program in that period.
So, okay.
Now,
I don't think this is clear in that procedure. I think you need to come to them in April with the estimated service fee.
Stephen, this is why you have workshops.
So anyway, I think that it just needs to reflect that process you've just discussed.
Yeah, okay.
It's not reflecting it properly here, because I just didn't think it was following.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't respond to your email from this morning, but I had some other things that I was attending to. But those points that you've raised, I'll definitely take it on board.
Finish, Chair.
So the council is to inform of the agreed annual service fee with the issuance of a purchase order. When do we need that purchase order?
Well, that will be, I suggest.
October, by October.
Well, I suggest it'll be earlier in the year once we've finished with the program and we're going to report that to the other council. We'll be in a position then to be able to provide them with that information. What we want to be able to do is receive the purchase order so the program could start in mid-November.
That's right. So I think you need to put, having here as part of this, a timeline of how you expect the events to occur. I'm quite happy to work with you, General Manager, or yes, member.
But surely just a phrase like, as soon as practicable before the commencement of the program.
Yes, but I think you need, the council won't know when we intend to commence the program. So we're saying it's November. So I'm saying maybe we need to put a definitive date or month in there.
Two things. One, it would help if you had the whole
Agreement.
agreement,
That's right.
so that I can actually see
With marked up
context, etc. Secondly, I was going to suggest maybe next week some form of Teams meeting, just a workshop type meeting for any member that wants to participate to actually come in and discuss, and rather than spending the next half hour, because I have a couple of sort of points that I'd like to cover, but I don't think it's a good use of the council, as in that we know, and the recommendation is that consult with the constituent councils proposing the amendments to the agreement.
then there's obviously.
As in, so until we actually have worked those out, I don't think we should be passing this recommendation per se, but as in, should we just modify the, to say that,
Could I suggest the recommendation say that the general manager can stop with members, that the general manager circulate to members a markup of the proposed change of the proposed changes to the services agreement, and that a Teams meeting be held in the week commencing whatever the next week is. In the week following this meeting, prior to it being submitted to constituents of councils for the purposes of negotiation of those amendments.
I'm happy with it. Who moved it? Was it Cole or moved?
Can I have a second?
Reynolds.
You two did it. Can you second me, Mr.
No, if Cole and I agree with it, we.
Oh, you could, all right, you agree?
Yep. Member O'Connor and I agree with it.
That's it.
Okay. Right. Any discussion on that recommendation as slightly changed? All in favour? Thank you. Pass. Item 9, biosecurity compliance, the recommendation of the council notes report. Mover and seconder, please. O'Connor. Member Leslie, thank you. Discussion on this issue. I note the reference to owing has changed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Member Reynolds.
Did you pick up the errors in the report, Chair?
I was looking through it. No, you go through them.
If you go to the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth table down, which starts at 911, as in, I think that should read 1256.
Yes.
And the next line down, 3, 4, 5 of the 1256 were first inspections. So there were two, and I think that was a cut and paste because I think that was the number in the previous report. And going back and having a look. So as I've highlighted previously, we seem to still be having quite a low high risk level of new inspections. It's the 76 of the 345 were new inspections, so roughly what's that, about a quarter, a bit under a quarter. So there's 3/4, nearly 80% low risk. I know from an inspection point of view that you look around the surrounding properties to see if it is a biosecurity risk, but I just see that as in close to 4 out of 5, or we'll say 3 out of 4 properties around each one might be a little bit high. Well, and I would hope that we could focus, and I have been asking this previously, whether we can really target, given the limited resources we have, to those higher risk properties. As in, yeah, sure, you've still got to highlight around the individual property, but whether we could better target. I suppose that's a question through to the general manager, whether we can improve our targeting to get that rate up from just over 20%.
And further to that, with the number of people I have in my ear, and I'm sure other members do, about people with, the number of properties around Blackberry or Blanchard and Tussock, I think we've really got to do that.
Isn't that, so, sorry, if may I?
Yes.
I think you're about to say the same thing.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So given the high rate of re-inspections,
Yes, that's
if
right.
81 of them, so just less than 50% came out of the system. So that's a fairly good result. And then if 5 of them, of the 27, were first inspections, and as Councillor Reynolds just mentioned, that if 4 of them around them are clean, you've got 4 5s, that's 20. Then you're going to have 20 low risk properties to match your 5 high risk properties. So don't the stats in this case, don't those statistics make sense?
So basically what you're saying, I think, is that of the 27 first inspections, most of those were around those property where re-inspections were being held to check whether the surrounding properties were high risk or low risk. Is that right?
To evidence that they are a high risk, I think that's what we've had to demonstrate when we've gone through the prosecution, is that we needed to demonstrate that around the high risk property is that it is high risk because everything around it is clean. So one of those major factors is that it is impacting upon the neighbour next door. And so if you do calculate that there are sometimes between 4 and 5 properties that surround one dirty property, for want of a better term, then yeah, five fours are 20. And so then you'd have, that's the 22 out of 27 that are low risk. And so because the time was consumed on re-inspection, and then that at least nearly 50% of the re-inspections meant that they were cast out of our system because of our compliance strategies, then that would be a good thing. Wouldn't it be? Maybe. I'm just hazarding a, just throwing a.
If that's the reason for them, yes.
Maybe.
I'm just trying to highlight the limited resources we have, as in is it a good utilisation of resources to do so many low risk properties, as in the limited resources? And I will come, if I may, Chair, I'm looking 12 months ago, so up till the end of 31st of May 2023 for the 11 months, the County Council inspected 1,539 properties. If you come to, so this is from the business paper of 12 months ago. If you come back to today's business paper, that's 1,256. So just under 300 less properties inspected for the 11-month period. And again, it comes down to resourcing, but we're doing, and I can back up again to find out how many first and seconds. That there were 557 first inspections in that previous period, whereas we've got 345. So sorry, I'm just flipping between screens. So we're doing a lot less. I'm also concerned with regard to the WAP funding and the program that is, from what I understand, much focused on first inspection. And if our first inspection is yes, and given the low level of first inspections here,
There's currently a backlog of inspections over 90 days. And we have a number of re-inspections that will come. When do we anticipate that we will be able to accelerate the rate of new inspections, targeting what we perceive as being higher risk areas, and not new inspections that are surrounding current high risk properties? When will we have the resources to be able to do that?
Mr. Chairman, I think Chris and I need to take that question on notice. It was raised with me when I was first appointed by Councillor Reynolds that he wanted to see some strategic approach to the way the WAP funding was used and reported upon. So I hear your question and we note it, but I think we need further time to discuss it.
No, that's fair enough.
There's also, I believe, now a far greater understanding of the Department of Primary Industry's view about inspections and the way WAP is to be used. And we've had to, I think, accommodate that while the program's still moving. It's not a matter of stopping this program because people are in the system and we've got to go there. So I think what we're doing is capturing a few problems that arise from that. And I'd suggest that the resourcing question should have been asked at the beginning of the program to ensure that there were appropriate resources in it. The vacancy that we've carried, we have been dependent on people working some additional hours. We've accommodated that with time in lieu arrangements for them. It hasn't been a dollar cost. But I think these results are on the way to demonstrate that we're doing our job very effectively. So I think the questioning today is, I appreciate it. I think that it shows that you're demonstrating that you want to see the data and understand the data. But at this stage, I'd like a little bit more time to consider that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I understand that. I put the recommendation. All in favour?
Right.
We go to item 10. 9, penalty infringement notice. I have a recommendation that council notes the report. Move, please, member Connor. Leslie, thank you. Discussion on this, please. The number of pins I take it hasn't moved very much. No.
6 penalty infringement notices since the last report.
Okay. Any further discussion? Put the recommendation. All in favour? Thank you. Item 10, other matters, County Council meeting schedule. The recommendation is that council adopts the proposed meeting schedule.
Do we want to deal with that extraordinary meeting here?
I think we should just wait until we have results.
I was more just going to suggest a calendar date so that Lisa and I had a discussion. So I actually looked at is it 30th, whatever the 30th, 29th or 28th.
So can I just
But it's not enough time.
put and second, and then if there are any changes to the content of the recommendation, you do it in the table.
Beaver?
We don't need to highlight a special meeting.
No,
That's Chair. Let's listen. So I'm happy to.
Member Ellis, Member O'Connell, thank you. So the meeting schedule is there. The 9th of August meeting was set the date it is because of the obviously election. I think we can note that there may need to be an extraordinary general meeting for the purposes of terms of reference and appointment of an ARIC member.
As well as the chair
And the chair.
and the chair terms.
So yes, there will be extraordinary meeting for the appointment of a member, the reappointment of members of the ARIC and the appointment of the chairman
And adoption.
and the adoption of the terms of reference. Thank you.
And that has to be done before the 9th of August.
Yes.
Because there's a meeting before then of ARIC. Scheduled.
And the meeting can be attended by teams. We'll just put that so that we know that it could be a early morning meeting. Okay, any further discussion on this matter? Put the recommendation. All in favour? Thank you. No notices of motion or rescission motions. Confidential reports. Propose that council will now move into closed committee of the whole to discuss matters that the general manager considers in accordance with section 928 of the Local Government Act is an opinion that business on the agenda is designated confidential as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with in part of the meeting, close to the meeting or in public. And further, in accordance with section 10B1 of the Act, is considered the discussion of the business in open meeting when on balance be contrary to public interest. Could I have someone to move us into closed committee of the whole to review items listed? Member Reynolds and second Member O'Connell. All in favour? Aye. We have the recording stopped, please. Any members of the public, please remove themselves from the chamber. There are none.
Or is it still there?
Report on the commencement of the confidential matters. Item 12, prosecution cases update. Council noted the report. The recommendation was moved by Member O'Connor and seconded by Member Watt. Item 13, property inspections, May 2024. The recommendation, which was moved by Member O'Connor and seconded by Council Watt, was that Council notes the report. It was passed unanimously. That isn't it? The next scheduled meeting of the County Council is the 9th of August 2024 at 2 p.m. To be held in these chambers. And I now declare the meeting closed at 4:12 p.m.
There, Carl.
That's good.
Afternoon, everybody.